Hi everyone, this is Arohi and in this video I'll discuss about two widely used Python frameworks, Flask and Django. See, both the frameworks are popular, but when to use which framework? What is the difference between them? So this is very important to understand. So in this video I'll explain you each and everything practically. I want to start my today's session by what is framework, right? We are talking about web frameworks, right? And we will be knowing like what is the difference between these two frameworks. But what is web framework? First of all, let's understand that. So see, web framework connects your Python code with browser. See over here. See, this is the Python function which I have created and this is in a py file, my Python file. And this is the browser. So web framework connects your Python code, this is my Python code, connects your Python code with browser on specific URL. See, this is the URL. On this URL, what what our web framework is doing? On this URL, it is showing this data. And what is there in this function? I'm calling index.html page on this function and this is the content lying in that particular page. So what is web framework? Web framework simply connects your Python code with your browser on different URLs, right? So now the question is which framework is better, Flask or Django? So to make you understand this concept, I'll take you through the installation steps of Flask and Django. So see, this is how we install Flask. Pip install Flask. You need to execute this command in your, if you're using Windows, then you execute this command in your command prompt. And if you're a Linux user, then you execute this command in your terminal. By writing this command, you can easily install Flask. Once you install Flask, so this app.py is my Python file and these 6-7 lines of code, Python code I've written in it. And if you see the last line, I have mentioned port number over here. Port number simply means I want to run this web application on this particular port. And the last line over here, Python app.py. This will run your app. Installed Flask, created app, now I'm running the app. When you run this code, you will get this URL. Then you simply need to write this URL in your browser and your Flask application is running now. That's it. This is the step what you means this is what you need to perform when you want to execute Flask application. Now let me show you the code for Django installation. How to install Django? First of all, you need to install Django like this, pip install Django. And then this is the next line. See, in Django, you always need to start your project by this command. Django admin start project is a command for starting a project. And this my site is a project name, right? You created your project and then by this command, you can run your server. See, this is the URL. On this URL, your server will run. But what will happen when you execute this command, start project? So see over here, this is the project layout of Django. When you'll execute the second command, when you'll start the project, so these are the files which you will get in your machine. My site is a folder name. Under that, you are getting these many different files, these many different predefined files, and all these files have some code, right? Now, means in Django, we are getting some pre-installed, predefined code. But in Flask, we are writing everything by ourselves, right? Now, what we understand from these two installation steps, that in Django, we have predefined code, right? And in Flask, we write everything ourselves. See, Django basically focus on less code, right? Means main intent behind developing Django was to write less code, and Django was developed to simplify the website development process. Obviously, the website development process is getting simplified when you install Django. It provides you the basic structure, right? It provides you the basic files, and these files have some code in it. So that means what is happening over here? They are simplifying the website development process by providing us few files. But on the other hand, if you are a beginner, then this predefined code, then this predefined file may be a problem for you because sometimes it is difficult to understand somebody's code, right? But if you are an expert or an intermediate coder, then this can be a benefit for you because you need to write very less number of code. Rest of the code is already present there. So for beginner, Flask is good because here each and every line of code we write ourselves. And right, clear. So I hope this difference is clear. So what I'm trying to say over here is, if you are a expert coder or a average coder, then you go for Django, because in Django there are you'll get a structure already, and you just need to write code in different files to change your code in different file. But if you are a beginner, this might be a problem for you. So if you are a beginner, go for Flask. In Flask we write each and everything ourselves, so we understand what we are writing and what we have written and where we have written, right? So now the next thing is routing. How we route. Route simply means different routes means URLs which we are providing to our different Python functions. Suppose this is a function with the name of home page, and see, this is the code. This is the function, right? And this is a Flask code. Basically this code I've written for Flask, and if you'll see above this function, here we have defined the root also, we have defined the URL also. What we are saying over here, that this function should work at this URL. Very simple. But in Django, we have a separate file with the name of urls.py file, and we need to write all the URLs, we need to define all the URLs in this url.py file. So this url.py file, you will get it when you will start the project, right? So this is again over here, this is very easy to, if you're a beginner, this is very easy to manage your code. And over here, we have a separate file, we are writing everything over there. Now, Django is for big projects. Use Django when you're working on big projects, and use Flask when you're working on small projects. Let me explain you this. See, you can use Django for big projects, like if you're developing e-commerce site, you're developing online training portals, etc., where the single website have lots of functionality. See, e-commerce site and online training portals, these kinds of sites have lots of functionality. They have online payments option, FAQs are there, user accounts, blogs are there, everything is there on single site. Here, we can create multiple small applications for each module. For example, let me explain you. See, we can create one app for blog, right? Where we will be writing, where we'll be having the code related to blogs only. In the same way, we can create different applications for different other modules, like FAQ. For FAQs, you can create different application. For users account, you can create different application, so that what will happen if you do in that if you work in that way, so your code will be managed. When you will be developing your website, your code will be managed. And even later on, when you want to maintain your website in later stages, so that is also very easy when you're when you're using Django for big websites, right? And Flask, I just told you, like, use Flask for small websites. Now, suppose you want to create a website just for blogging, right? You just want to write blogs on that. You want to create a website just for blogging. Then you can use Flask in that. Flask is very good for small applications. Why Flask is good? Why to use Flask for smaller applications? See, for simpler projects, see, the feature of Django might be an overdose, right? So Django is very complex. There are lots of files are there, but the website which we want to develop, the code is very small. Then what is the use of having so many different Python files when the project you want to create is very simple, right? Why to go for more complexity when you can solve the same purpose with the less complex applications, right? So that's why use Flask for small applications. Now again the question is, I've just told you like what is Flask and what is Django, what is the difference between them. Now the question here again is how to choose between Django and Flask. So the answer for this question is, what is the size of your project which you want to create? See, the size of the project is very good point to choose the framework. Use Flask when you're working on when you want to work on small and less complex application, and use Django when you want to work for bigger or more complex applications. And See, I hope you might have, might got an idea how to choose the framework and what is the difference between them. So if you like the video, please subscribe my channel. Thank you.